Welcome to On the X. My guest today is David Rogier, co-founder and CEO of MasterClass, the online learning platform that brings world-class experts into people's homes. From Serena Williams to Martin Scorsese to Gordon Ramsay, MasterClass has redefined how we learn by blending access, storytelling, and cinematic production. David was inspired by his grandmother, a Holocaust survivor and pediatrician, who taught him that education is the one thing no one can take away from you. That belief became the foundation for MasterClass, which he launched in 2015 to democratize access to world-class expertise. Today, the platform reaches millions around the world. Most recently, MasterClass announced the launch of its first ever certificate program, offering learners a more structured path to mastery in business. And their inaugural course is a leadership series in partnership with the Navy SEAL Foundation. Overall, this was a fascinating discussion, and I hope you enjoy it. So here we go with David Rogier on the X. I think this is a really tough thing that a lot of companies are probably wrestling with. It must be these days. Is there's a big push from just people in general of, hey, kind of leave me alone, let me do my own work wherever I am. And I think in our modern day and age, it's almost impossible not to have some measure of a distributed workforce. There's rarely, I would think, companies where every single employee is in the same location. It just doesn't happen all that much anymore, unless you're having like a mom and pop grocery store or something like that, right? That kind of thing, something like that. But most companies are internet based and by and large have to be somewhat distributed. But I do think that to your point, there is an upside of being around people for multiple reasons. And I don't know how to strike that balance, because at this point at the foundation, it's sort of the same thing. We do have a headquarters building in Virginia Beach, but there's only a handful of people that work there. I think we're mainly distributed. Our CEO works remotely, and most of the executive staff does as well. So yeah, it's tough. I think it's the nature of the beast these days, but I think that's a cool compromise, what you're talking about, like trying to do more things where it's like, okay, but we're going to get everybody together for this type of thing multiple times a year. I think that's a good thing. So,
and I wonder, interesting, because like the brand new crop of new companies, like in the tech world, are almost priding themselves on being small teams in person. Mm-hmm. And I've met multiple ones that like they take that to the extreme. They are living in the same house. And in some ways, you can see that could make you a stronger bonded team. But also, it's going to attract a certain type of person. And you're going to miss out on a large group of people who are like, I can't do that, or I don't want to do that, or I live far away. And it'll be interesting to see as they scale. In the past, it just would not scale like that. With AI tools out there now that are letting a single employee do a whole lot more, is that going to fundamentally change the size of the company and how you can have a much smaller team and actually achieve much more sales?
Yeah. I think that kind of idea too. That's sort of like the Facebook story, right? I'll get a house and they're just burn through stuff and coding and whatever. That can work for a certain type of person that's at a certain point in their life, but there's a lot of people like me. If you're 50 years old and you got a family, like that's not working for you. That's just not in the cards. Right?
But like before, if you lived at a house, most companies, if it's 5 people, can only achieve a certain amount of sales. But there are now teams of 5 to 10 that are doing over 100 million a year in sales. And so, it just posts, so then you're like, well, maybe they want to stay around there, and that's still an awesome company. Right?
Yeah. So talk a little bit about your background prior to MasterClass. You founded MasterClass or co-founded it, correct? And it's been around for 10 years. 2015 is when you guys founded it.
We launched in 2015. Yeah, so it took us a little bit to get it off the ground.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. And so what were you doing before that? Before you ventured off into this, what was your background before that?
I have a strange background. I thought I wanted to work in the political world. So in school, I interned on Capitol Hill for our senator. I interned for a local state senator. And I realized that wasn't for me. and I had like a year left maybe in school, and I was studying or maybe two. I was studying political science, and I was like, I need to learn something that's going to help me get a job. So I, started taking all the econ classes I could. The only job I could get out of school was in industrial parts. So I was working in supply chain and, operations and industrial parts company. I then got recruited by the folks at Tesco, it's a British conglomerate on Grove Street, to do a bunch of supply chain math for them. And I was doing supply chain math, and we launched a whole chain of stores in the United States. And I wanted more, so I went and applied for an MBA, and I was shocked. I got into Stanford from MBA. I did not think I was going to. A professor of mine ran a venture capital firm, so I went up to, and us two became close. And I was asking him for career advice and job advice. So I went up to him one day after class, and I was like, "Hey, I think I found my next job." He's like, "David, congrats, amazing. What is it?" I was like, "Well, it kind of involves you." And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "What if I come work for you?" And he's like, "Okay." So I went and worked for him, and I invested in startups. And then after a little bit of time, I went to him, and I was like, "I don't think this is what I want to do. I want to start a company." He goes, "What?" I was like, "I don't know yet." He writes me a check for $500,000 and tells me to go think of an idea.
Wow. You must have had a really great impact on this person, because anybody who's listening to this, who's like an entrepreneur trying to run a startup, that's like a dream scenario.
I mean, I was
Wait,
shocked.
and by the way, is this strings attached? $500,000 comes, right? Like some kind of investment,
Oh
equity,
yeah.
whatever?
Sorry. He said, "I'm going to invest. I'll invest half a million." But I mean, I went to I got a lawyer, and I said, "I want to get better terms." And he's like, "What? What is your argument for better terms? You haven't started anything before. You don't have an idea. David, this is a good deal." Right? Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So then what? So you get $500,000, and you don't, at this time, according to your story, have even an idea of what you want to do. So how do you?
I got a couple ideas, right? I have a couple ideas. The first thing I decided to do is take a vacation to clear my head. So I cleared my head on my money. I'm not hitting anybody.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I'm not. No. Come on.
Yeah, sweet.
It's on my money.
$500,000 here. Let's Bali. Here we come.
Yeah. No. With my own money, and because I'm terrified, right? I'm terrified, because what I start to realize is, this is where I really resonated with your story. It's the first time in my life I don't have any constraints, right? The constraint is I have $500,000, and I have to think of a great idea, because I know this is a once in a lifetime chance. I don't want to mess it up. And it was scary. You can't get any empathy from anybody, because what are you going to do? I have $500,000, and I don't know, and I'm stressed out because I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, you aren't going to get a hug from anybody, right? And it actually went to a pretty dark place. It got to a pretty dark place, and I felt horrible for even feeling that way, because I'm like, this is an amazing opportunity, right? Why would I do that? But I felt such immense pressure, and that my life will be summed up. This is the chance to create the life I want, and it's on me, and I have to think of it, right? I have to figure it out, and it's all on me, all in my head, and am I as good as I thought? Maybe I'm not. All this. And somebody gave me really amazing advice. She said, "Choose an idea that even if it fails, you will be proud of it." That was an amazing constraint for me, because that constraint gets off all the enterprise sales software ideas off the table for me. And I have to think about, what things do I really care about? And also saying, hey, even if it fails, I can still be proud of what I did,
Mm.
as long as I did it the right way, right, and doing it, and the thing I'm proud of. And so I thought long and hard, and and I what I kept coming back to is I was raised in part by my grandmother,
Mhm.
and my grandmother. I remember I would go to her, house after school. I'd be dropped off at school at her house and stay with her. And I remember coming to her house one day after school, and I complained about all the math homework I had, which obviously I didn't have a lot because I'm in elementary school. And my grandma tells me I have a story I want to share with you. And as a kid, this is the last thing you want to hear, right? She has a story. So my grandma tells me the story when she was 16, and this story changed me. She was 16 years old and living in Poland. Her mom and her go on a family vacation. Dad's going to join. He stays home a couple extra days to finish school. To finish some work things. While they're on vacation, the Nazis invaded. They killed everybody, including her father. She flees to New York City. Only job her mom and her can get is on a factory floor. They're working the factory floor side by side. My grandma decides she wants to become a doctor. Applies to every medical school in the state of New York, and this is before a computer, right? So you are handwriting applications. She applies to every school in the state of New York, gets a no from every single school. Keeps working in the factory. Applies again next year, gets a no from every single school. Starts calling up and writing to the deans of admissions, asking, why am I not getting in? One guy is willing to talk to her, and he goes, you have 3 strikes against you. You're a woman, you're an immigrant, and you're Jewish. Hangs up the phone. She keeps working in the factory, applies again next year, gets into one school, and becomes a doctor. And I'm staring at her because this is intense stuff to be hearing from just having complained about math homework.
Yes.
And she says, David, the point I'm trying to make to you is education's the only thing that someone can't take away from you. And that, just cut to my core, right? And so I realized if I got one chance, I want to build something that people cannot take away from other people. And so I want to try to make it possible for anybody in the world to learn from the best.
So I had read about your grandmother a little bit, or read about you, that this was a big influence. That's an incredible story. And I love that sentiment too. Education is the only thing someone can't take away from you, right? Sort of your, you could even expand that really, right? Your mentality is something that someone can't take unless you give it over to them, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's a really important lesson for people. So reflecting on that then, and thinking about what you want to do, how'd you come up with this idea then for turning that into MasterClass, what it is today?
So I started saying, okay, it's going to be in education. And so what kind of opportunities are there that I can do good in education and still be a business? Because I believe if you create a business that does good, then if you scale that business, it does good at even more scale, right? So I want a business. So I posted ads on Craigslist in towns up and down the state of California. I said, I'll pay you for it was $25, whatever it was, to just talk about your education. It was a user interviews with people who I didn't know. You talk to these people and they, just ripped off on their education, making horrible choices. And you're God, these people want to learn and are paying to learn, but are getting crap education or being scammed. Yeah.
Just so I understand right now, so what you're doing then in this part of the process, you're trying to figure out what's wrong with education, right? What's a niche that you can fill here where it's this isn't working in the education process.
Exactly.
And how do we fix it, right? Okay, got it.
Yeah, exactly. And wanting to talk to people that not just through your own lens, your own biases, right? Wanting to hear other people, right? And because that will then strike inspiration. And you just heard story after story. Somebody went to a receptionist school of some sort or training program. What was the school or training? Answer my phones for free for X weeks. And you're I mean, that's base. I mean, like, okay, it's on the job training, but like, it feels pretty scammy. Another person, paying $5,000 and saving, I think was for an acting class, but it was in a small town. That acting class was not gonna, odds are, wasn't gonna be a great class, and for $5,000 is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Or another person I remember, like, they wanted to find a career that was gonna make money and last forever, and so they looked around where they live and they saw a lot of addicts around. And they're like, "Oh, I'll be a drug counselor. That will be a good living because there's always tons of drug addicts." And like, then they figured out, oh, like, this is really hard. And as a drug addict counselor, it's it's not a for-profit thing usually, so it's a nonprofit. So it's actually hard to find a job that pays well. And you're like, this person like devoted so much of their life, and that's so good, but like it didn't achieve what they wanted in life, right? And so how can you help them? So I did that. I also thought about, I love to learn, and that got me in trouble in school, but I love to learn. Why don't I take, it was just like at the start of online classes, why don't I take online classes? And I was like, because they remind me of the classes I hated the most in school. It is like literally a webcam in the back of a classroom and a lecturer in front. Like, I know I'm going to be bored most of the time. Yeah.
Well, just real quick, you said you love to learn and that got you trouble in school. Why? That's a very strange statement to make.
Oh, yeah. Our education system in America is not meant to help to foster a love of learning. It is obedience training. I mean, it is obedience training in America. You are literally drugged if you like are too, energy, right? If your energy is high, like you're literally drugged. I stutter, and it was worse when I was a kid. I still stutter now. And so school teachers often would not want to call on me because I don't know if they're trying to protect me from having to raise my head and stutter in front of everybody, or if they would cringe or whatever it was. And my mom and dad had a very different approach. My mom and dad said, we are going to treat you like an adult. We are not going to let this, in our minds, be any obstacle. So when they had friends over, their expectation was I sit with them and their friends at dinner on the couch, and I engage with them. Amazing what they did. The short-term effect, though, was I figured, I am worthy to ask a adult a question I have, or to share my to share my own thoughts with them. Well, in most schools and most classrooms, a teacher did not appreciate, the classrooms I was in, when a child would question what they're teaching or why they're teaching it, or that they don't agree. And so I got in trouble a lot. Yeah.
Okay. It's funny. I'll tell you my perspective on education in this country, because it's something that people might disagree with me on this, but this is what I basically tell my kids is that I learned very early on my own that getting good grades and learning were not the same thing.
100%.
And that getting good grades was a means to an end, in that it would get me hopefully where I wanted to go, meaning better grades in high school afforded me a better chance of getting to the college I wanted to get into, and better grades there afforded me the better opportunity to get the job I wanted to get to. But I also realized on that journey that I didn't necessarily honestly have to learn anything, and that I could get good grades and figure out what I wanted to learn. And those could be different things if I wanted them to be. And I tell my kids this, where I basically say, look, we have a system in this country, and you are going to set yourself up for the most options, and to be able to pursue what you want to do if you want to stay in that system, by getting good grades. That being said, you can also figure out exactly what you want to learn and put your learning energy there, and your understanding the system and getting good grades energy over here. And I just think it's a valuable lesson in sort of the reality of the situation, right? And I think it's a good objective tool to have as well. And it sounds kind of cynical, but I don't think it is. I think it's pragmatic.
I 100% agree. I mean, I think Mark Twain has, I'm going to butcher this quote, but do not let school get in the way of your education.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I think there's things you learn in school that are valuable. Some in the classroom and
Of
some not in the
course.
classroom.
Yes.
But like, in life, you're always gonna, even as an entrepreneur, you're gonna have a boss of some sort. It could be your customer, it could be a board, right? Or an actual boss. Partly what you learn in the classroom is how to please your teacher. That is a valuable skill to learn.
Yes.
Right? Now, is that always tied to learning the most? Absolutely not. But like that is a good skill to learn.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So, all right. So at when does this kind of come together then for you, based on what you're figuring out here, where you see the gaps in the system? Where was there a light bulb moment where it was, aha, I got it?
Yeah, I was. There were two that kind of built on each other.
Okay.
One, I started thinking of like, okay, what's like a school that I would want to go to? And I like thought, okay, like if Aaron Sorkin taught a screenwriting class, like, the filmmaker who did
Mhm.
all the West Wing, and I was like, I have no interest in writing a screenplay. I'll never write a screenplay. Would I take that? I actually would. Like, I would want to learn how the guy does it and how actually to write from him. Like, I'd actually be interested in that. So I started mocking some stuff up. And then what I would do is I would, for all my ideas, I'd mock them up and I'd put it in front of people. So another idea I had was like, is there a way to help restaurants that are, small ones, like improve all their supply chain stuff? The stuff I learned in my previous job. And, this kind of was before the education thing really like clicked. I was like, half in it. And so I, emailed some people on Yelp and I asked, restaurant owners, and I, if I could show them things, and I would, and there was one guy, I gotta figure out who it was at because I really have to thank him. But every week for a little bit, I would come and I would show him a bunch of screenshots of things I mocked up, and I'd always ask, does he like it? Does he think this will help? And at the end of the interview, I'd always ask him if he would pay for it. And I'd come to him, I think a couple times, and I'd show him, and I asked him, and he would be like, no, like I wouldn't. And this like third time or something, I went to him and I asked him if he'd pay for it. And he goes, yes, I would. I was like, really? Like, oh my God, like maybe I finally stumbled on something. And he's like, well, I mean, man, I just feel bad for you now, so I'd pay for it. And I was like, damn it. That's like not what. So well, he's like, well, do you have other ideas you're working on? So I actually showed him the education one. He's like, why don't you do that? I think that's awesome. And I was like, okay, like I need, if all these things are coming together, I need to pursue that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you still have the $500,000 at this point?
Since then, we've raised.
No. I mean, when you finally
you're
still sitting on that $500,000.
Well, I mean, it's probably come down a bit, right? Like maybe I've spent, it's 470,000 or whatever. Yeah. But that's all I've raised.
Okay. All right. So great idea, right? All right, cool. I'm going to go get the world's leading experts on things. And I'm going to, I think the thing is sort of democratize world-class expertise, right? Like that concept. Great. How do you get to people though? Because
now after that, the hard part starts.
Yes. So how do you get to people? Who do you start with? And who do you get to, right? Like who's the first person to Roger up and say, sure, I'll do this.
It was so hard. Took so long. I learned a lot about life and myself in that process. First of all, I come from more of the business world. So in the business world, you ask somebody for an intro to somebody, the person, if they know you, will make the intro. That is, the entertainment industry is designed to not allow that to happen. Because if you're a celebrity, you don't want random people introing you, like for a whole host of reasons. So they have a team of people around them.
Right.
An agent, a manager, a PR person, a lawyer, that are all running interference. Then if you think about it, if you're I figured I can only start at the top, because if I start at the bottom, I can't go up. I can only go down. So you wanted to get to the top. So the question was, who are the people at the top, and how can I go get them? So I did a bunch of polling and testing to figure out who are the top. And I said, okay, I'm going to try to make a plan to go after these folks. But you quickly saw that, like, a lot of agents, like in the Hollywood world, everybody has an agent. Most agents are pretty risk adverse, and that's what their job is, to be actually like to protect it.
Sure.
So like I'm an unknown person. I've only raised $500,000. Haven't created anything before. Why don't you get some other people first, and then you come back to me?
Right.
But you're like, but I need somebody to say yes. And then I started realizing, okay, there's people outside of that system a little bit. Like authors tend not to have agents as much, right? Or like folks, a photographer tends not to have it. I'm like, okay, well, is there a way to do that? And so I start sending bunch of cold emails. And most are ignored. A couple clearly are trying to run scams off me. And then I realized one of the things I could do was like, hey, on the credibility side, how could I build that up? Okay, it's hard for me to get a star, but what if I could get somebody whose stars have worked with and trust and know? So I start trying to say, hey, are there film directors that they've worked with, or casting directors, or producers or folks? And I get a couple of those signed on. So one was Jay Roach, who did he did all the Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers. He's Austin Powers at that time. And he is just like a fantastic person. And he was starting to help and advise. And then Bill Gutentag, who's an Oscar-winning filmmaker, agreed, to advise. So all of a sudden, when I'm going in my decks, I could put their kind of names on there, right, as advisors. And then, we got as soon as a card starts to fall, another card starts to fall, and it's a little bit of chain reaction. But I think one of the things I learned from Bill Gutentag, the Oscar-winning film director, was most people don't operate off heat. They operate off perceived heat. That was a very deep lesson for me, because people want to be a part of something that is hot, but it's not. It's their perception that it's hot.
Sure.
Which is different than something actually being hot.
Yeah.
Right? And so how do you create that story? And then the last part is I realized, especially in the beginning, it was going to be on relationships. People were going to have to trust me. And so how do you build relationships with these key people so that they actually trust you? So I think the education I got too was like on like social skills. And then we launched with, so the first 5, James Patterson, Dustin Hoffman, Serena Williams, Usher, and Annie Leibovitz.
Man.
Yeah.
That's amazing, honestly, that you got to those people, because that's diverse too in terms of industries, right? Like you got a professional athlete, you've got an author, you've got an actor, you've got a musician, and who's the 5th one?
Maybe photographer. We said Annie Leibovitz and Usher. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. A diverse group. We wanted. I mean, that's what we wanted. But we're like, hey, we were going to take whoever like at that tier will say yes. But but that's what we wanted, because it also creates a brand. This isn't just an acting thing or a sports thing, and we can test different classes.
Now, so I mean, obviously, really cool idea. Hey, I want to get James Patterson to come on and talk about writing, right? Okay, but the enacting of that, turning that into an actual class, that's a different story. So, pardon the pun, but how do you do that then? How did you go from concept into action? Did you have an idea in your head of like, okay, we're going to break it down into modules. Are we just going to put a camera on this person and just let them talk, and then we'll dice it up in a certain way? How'd you figure that out?
That's a great question. A little bit like in the SEALs course, right, that we put out now, which I know we'll talk about, but they have a lesson of like deciding what are like the go or no go points. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know that terminology, and I wish I did, because that would have saved me a lot of stress and time. But what like figured out was like, okay, I don't have these people yet, but what are the core questions I need to answer? If I can sign these people, if I can make something good with them, and if people will actually buy. Well, the first one I can't really like test, but the latter two I can. at the same time. So what do we do? I'm going to film test classes. So we filmed them with my mom and dad. And we're like, can we, my mom is an artist and my dad was a family law attorney, a divorce lawyer. So like, can we film test classes that we're not going to put anywhere, but we just film, can we make something good with them? And like, you learned a lot about the process. One of the things you learn is like, despite practicing something for decades, most people aren't used to actually teaching it. So you actually have to work with them beforehand to distill what are the things that they wish somebody had taught them.
Yeah.
And what we realized in this process was our goal is to bring to that person, here's what the world thinks that they want to learn from you, James Patterson. And then 2, what is it that you wish somebody had taught you? And now we're going to merge those things. Now, James Patterson was our first shoot. James Patterson was amazing to do the first shoot with because he's an author, so he's pretty structured in his thinking. 2, he used to run a big ad agency. So he thinks about the target consumer, what do they want, what do they need. So that was like a great one to try with because he's already pretty good at this. Right.
Yep. Yeah. I can see that. I think, there's a big lesson in there too that I've found, which is there is actually a difference between when you think you know something, I don't think you actually know it until you have to teach it. Like forcing yourself to when you try to teach something to somebody, you realize, oh, have I thought that through completely? Do I actually know what I'm talking about? I mean, I found this over and over again. And I think, I'm sure there's people that do these courses where they have to sort of step aside and go, okay, wait a minute. Does that make sense? Right? Like, am I speaking in a way, am I putting this together in a way that actually works for people?
I mean, that is, I think, our job because our job is to help them become great as a teacher. And it's not live, right? So we have the ability to do multiple takes, right, and edit. But even things like I remember the James Patterson class, he started with the class with, "Hi, I'm Stephen King." And I was like, okay, so you, Chris Laff, I didn't think it was funny. And I told James, I don't think it's funny. He's like, it's funny. I was like, I don't think it is. So what do we do? And we still do this. We test every class before it goes out to do notes on it. So we actually test it. People watch more when that joke's in there.
Yeah.
And so part of it was like, and it really got us thinking about how do we learn, what things like do you actually learn? And like we don't always know when we're learning something or if we know something, to your point. And so that can we try to be more smart about that and more humble, right, if you will.
Yeah. It's interesting too. I'm reading a book right now called, it's called, well, I read a lot of books, usually in support of whoever I'm interviewing on this or talking to, having a conversation with, but this is an aside to that our creative director gave me. And it's an older book, but it's been updated. It's called Hey Whipple Squeeze This. It's by Luke Sullivan. And it is like the Bible of advertising, of marketing and advertising. So if you talk to any sort of like creative marketer person out there, they will know this book most likely. And so Luke Sullivan, I think, is kind of famous in that circle. He'd probably be actually a great person to have a master.
I'm going to check him out in the book. I'll read the book.
He was talking recently. So I'm reading this morning, and he was talking about. I think it was in this book. It may have been something else, but I'm sure it's in this as well. Where it's like when you ask somebody about different ads, different wording, it's not which one do you like more. It's which one of these would you buy, right?
Exactly.
That's the question to ask.
Exactly.
And that's exactly right.
And if you can, give them the opportunity to buy it and see if they actually will, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, great. Well, do you want to pay now for it? And then I'll get it to you, like after it's ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you launched this, you must have had to put a ton into advertising and marketing, right? Like, I mean, how'd you get it out there? And was it just, did it go like gangbusters from day one, or was there a slow ramp up? How'd that all play out?
So I thought the launch was going to be, I figured the launch was going to be huge because we got great press was coming, and it's a project I've been working on for years. So everybody in the world must want to know about it, right? And an employee actually got me like an extra phone charger battery. He's like, your phone's gonna be bringing off the hook. I was drinking my own, stuff. And we launched, and we had $10,000 in sales on the first day.
Okay.
And Chris, I went home and I'm not a crier. I actually cried. I was like, we are screwed. I just convinced 5 of the biggest names in the world to trust me to do this.
Uh-huh.
And I just burnt them. Like 10,000 sales. It's going to take a long time for them to get any money. And like, damn. And so, and like, I like fear and, you know, sadness and probably some shame, right? I remember I called my mom and dad and they said, well, fake it until you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it's not over yet. So I go to the next office and, you know, some dread, but like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to figure this out, you know, I'm going to figure it out. And I see we have a young guy on the marketing team. His name is Reed. And at the time, and Reed has a big smile on his face. So I'm like, Reed, how are you? What's going on? He's like, this business is going to be huge. And I was like, sorry, what? He's like, I'm running ads on Facebook. And I can acquire these people for so cheap. People are loving this. I was like, wait, what? And like just instantly from like dread and depression to like, are we going to change the world? Right? Like, you know, these like extremes where, you know, this. And then the next day was more than the last day and more than that. And then all of a sudden, like, you say, oh, if that's like the first day and it's just going to ramp up, like we, you know, and then within, you know, a week or two, we, you know, so I mean, we went from, you know, day 1 thinking that this is never going to work to day 2 or 3 being like, this might be a big business.
Mm.
Yeah.
Nice. So at what point then, obviously that with success, you can then get more people on board, to your point, like something's hot or perceived as hot. I want to be part of that. Right.
Yes.
And I think people also, even people that are well-known in their industry, want to be thought of as the expert on something, right? I'm sure that appeals to people's egos of just like, if it's like, hey, you're the expert on this. Yeah, probably that's appealing to people.
I mean, look, it's because in the beginning that wasn't. At the beginning, people had to want to teach, right? They had it because they would make all those people we launched with, you know, the first year could all do an American Express commercial and earn tons more money for less work. You know, then the brand started playing more of a role too, and all of a sudden you still have to want to teach because it's still a lot of work. But hey, this also is good for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So at what point then, because obviously there's a point here where you kind of got to go out and get talent, but with this company now, and I think most people know MasterClass, I would assume it goes from something like where you're starting out fishing, to use a fishing analogy, and you're really trying to fish and pull fish into the boat, and eventually they're jumping into the boat and you can't support it all, right? Like, so now how do you choose who gets to be a MasterClass? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that want to that you guys don't pick up.
Yeah, I mean, we now say no to, you know, not 99% of folks.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
There are still though the big fish. You still gotta go reel in.
Okay, interesting.
Right, like because but like there's some, and it's not it's usually when you talk to them, it's a fear to teach. It's an insecurity.
Okay.
Am I really a master? I mean, you know, one of the things that surprised me most, because I don't just come from this world, I assumed once you get to that level, you're kind of good. And no, these people, they got to there because they have a relentless drive to constantly improve.
Mm-hmm.
And so baked into that is I'm not the best, or I have to keep working to be the best.
Right.
So, I mean, we've had people on a phone call who have achieve the top of their field, are going to go into the Hall of Fame in whatever profession they're in. And they're like, I just don't know if I am a master yet. And you're like, whoa, because like into their head, they aren't. And you're like, you know, and so, yeah. So now to answer your question, we do a process. It's actually, we use a quantitative as part of the process because we want to discover folks that we don't know, or that, you know, we may, you know, people that we should know, but that we don't know. So that helps us find that. And then we have, you know, a team that tries to pick, and then we do some prediction algorithms based on our previous classes, you know, and then we evaluate, you know, is this good for the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an interesting point about that, because that's 100% right. Is the people that are the best at something get there because they're curious and they're humble. And it's a funny paradox of, like, the people that are the best at something also sort of believe, there's still a lot to learn when it comes to this field, whatever it is.
And it's actually like it's a problem that shapes our society and world, because if you look at like the Instagram influencers or YouTube influencers, a lot of them who are claiming to be experts
Yep.
are not experts,
Right.
and are scammy even, right? Like in actually the business world, you see this a ton, right? Influencers who are very scammy and aren't the experts, but they're great at presenting themselves. They're great at promoting themselves. They are putting themselves out on any podcast, TV show that will listen to them. But then the people who are really good at it, they're like, well, no, like, I'm not the best yet. Like, I still have to improve. I wouldn't even think of putting myself out there and trying to say, here are the 6 steps to achieve your goals, right? And so part of, this is like, we have to find those people and then to make them comfortable to teach.
Right. I know. It is a problem in the internet day and age where you can just broadcast yourself out there, right? It's like, this probably is like a Mark Twain quote, right? It's like the wisest person knows they don't know everything, and the fool thinks they know everything, right? It's that.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about Warren Buffett, he's not promoting himself on his own channels about his investing advice.
Yep.
Right? He is hosting once a year. He'll host, anybody can come and listen to him, and you can ask him questions and he'll try to answer it. But even in how he answers those questions, I mean, there's a lot of the answers where that's not my area. I'm not competent in that area.
Right.
How many times does an influencer say, I'm not competent, I shouldn't be talking about this?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about certificates, because this is the evolution here of MasterClass. And we have this partnership where we're kind of kicking off the first one. So just talk about it kind of conceptually to start, where this idea came from, what it is, what gap it may be filling in the market, where the need signal may have come from, that kind of thing.
Yeah. This came from our members who basically said, hey, we still do our user interviews, right? Them and prospective members. And they're like, the world has changed. There's more uncertainty. I'm more anxious about it. This is from a geopolitical world, but also from like an economics and like a jobs world. And what can you do to help us? And we said, okay, if we think about that, what are the job skills that are most important to actually learn? Who are the most important people to actually learn them from? And how do we do this in a way that actually helps you in your career and job? And when we started doing that, we saw a couple things. One is a lot of like the very job-related education is pretty boring and dull. And usually it's taught by isn't taught by actual experts. And it's also hard to show or prove the worth of it. So we said, okay, we can change that. So we said, okay, first class, the world is changing. Who's good in learning how to lead and function in an ambiguous, uncertain, environment and world? The Navy SEALs are best in the world at it. And there's actually a quote in a class from it about he says it's so off the cuff, but it's so true. When you panic, it is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about that, like if Navy SEALs have learned how to make good decisions and choices in the scariest, most dangerous places in the world, though it's going to be easier and less scary in the business world, but if you can learn those lessons in the business world, you are going to stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is the first one that we launched. We launched about a week and a half ago. From all these, you get a certificate certificate. You have to do a piece of project, a piece of work. You get a certificate of proof that you actually did a really good job on it. That comes from, folks like me and you, right? So like stamp approval on it. Our next one is with Google. We then have NVIDIA and Microsoft. And our idea is like, who are like the organizations? Because sometimes it's individuals, sometimes it's the organization that's actually best in the world. And I think the distinction for us was like, in the past, we've always done classes from individuals, but I think there's also cases for these skills where the organization's actually best at it. And it can train individuals. And we thought that was such a neat way to expand and help our members.
Okay. Actually, that's a good point of clarification. I thought all the certificates were from groups or companies or whatever, but it's not. There's one's from.
No, sorry. All the certificates are from organizations.
Okay, got it.
Because our idea was actually like in these business skills, sorry, I wasn't clear. All in these business skills that we have classes from individuals. Like that is on like a standard MasterClass, right? Yep. On MasterClass, we have those. But the extension for MasterClass would be these ones that are done by the best organizations who have taught individuals what these skills are.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So the key points of distinction are those. So it's group taught, it's group led, company led, whatever. So
it's organization. It's organization over the individual.
Right, and then it's more kind of business focused specifically, right? So it's kind of business skills.
It's going to help you in your job or in your business.
Yeah, and then the sort of actual certificate aspect of it, where it's almost like you get a kind of thing of whatever, and the other you get a kind of a certificate of completion kind of thing behind it. With the other MasterClass courses before certificates, was it a case where people were taking kind of, because in this there's like tests and there's self-evaluation and stuff, was that baked into those, or was it all just kind of like
it wasn't. It was just you kind of it's for your own personal kind of gain, and you can decide what to do it. So people would often list it on their LinkedIn or their IMDb.
Oh wow. Okay.
But it wasn't, we didn't give you a project or test. We weren't building like, in certs, we have in the certificates, we have interactive tools for you to role play. Like that wasn't, you could do that stuff if you wanted, but it wasn't part of a program that you got a stamp that I did this well.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. And then what's the kind of long-term, I want to talk a little bit about the kind of the one that we've done with you in conjunction with the foundation. Because it is kind of a unique setup and different a little bit. Speaking very broadly, it is a course that supports the foundation. So it is, and in turn, obviously supporting the community. So, obviously that was really critical for us. It's like this is supporting the foundation. This course, and it's focused on leadership. It is a kind of leadership principles course, and I think hopefully the product is something that like people receive well and enjoy and helps companies out there and make them better. So
definitely going to.
So you're just getting into this. Have the other ones been like the Google and NVIDIA and everything? Have you guys already shot those too?
We have shot some of them, and then the rest are being, the first crop is the last two are being filmed in the next couple weeks.
Okay, cool. What are those components that they're teaching, right? So if you think about leadership is obviously a great skill for people in organizations. What else? How else?
So on the Google side, we decided to do it in their moonshot lab. So they have a part of the organization which is solely designed and created to take very large innovative bets. The Waymo self-driving car came out of that lab, for example.
Okay.
So we said, okay, let's take those folks and let's have them teach us innovation, but not like standard innovation that you do inside a large organization. Because if you think about, for most of us, like if your innovation has constraints, and the times it doesn't have constraints, like the time when I started, even that I had a dollar constraint right on it. And so how do you innovate and drive very large change if you're a solo entrepreneur or if you're an intrapreneur, right, inside a large company? And so that innovation, and it's awesome. Then NVIDIA and Microsoft are both teaching different parts of AI, both how you use it to be more productive and how you use it from a strategic point of view inside your organization. So trying to pick things that you can and need to learn and do every day of your life.
Yeah, man, those AI courses will crush it.
They certainly will.
Like, I mean, I when you say that, I go, I want to watch that course.
They're gonna be awesome.
Every day there's some new thing, AI plugin or something I'm putting into my work where I'm like, oh my God, that just made everything so much easier for me.
And like, why not learn from the companies that are hoping to build it and create like the actual, the infrastructure and the software for it so that you are ahead of the curve.
Right. Yeah. The innovation thing is interesting because it's a conversation I've had with different people on this podcast I always find there's on the sort of left and right limits of that. If you have like sort of an innovation line, so to speak, there's the way over to one side would be if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? This has always worked. Just keep doing the same thing over here. And then on the other side would be like, just innovate the hell out of things. And I think you can be too far on those things and either one will break your organization potentially, right? And my limited experience in kind of startup land was finding the right line to walk there is critical to the growth of your company, but it's not easy because you want to make sure that you do have a foundation and you don't want to lose what's gotten you to where you are. But at the same time, you can't just rest on that and expect that at some point people are going to lose interest or it's just boring or whatever,
I totally agree with you. If you look at how long organizations stay in the Fortune 50 companies, it's actually a very short amount of time. Like it's actually been declining because figuring out the right line, to your point, on the spectrum to innovate kills most companies.
Yeah.
And it was the Christina Aguilera has taught a few classes with us, and she was actually one of our first instructors. And Christina has this great lesson that I really took to heart, which was most people misunderstand success. They think success is clearing a like long jump or something. But success is running a hurdles race. There's new hurdles every 10 feet or whatever it is. And like being successful once, it's awesome. But the people that you look up to have maintained that success over a longer period of time. And that isn't just they jump the one long jump and then we're a success. They constantly have to re-jump. And I think about that a lot, right? Like the original idea of MasterClass, okay, great. But how do we maintain that and keep growing and be much more successful? And innovation is the way to do it. But organizations are designed to like slow change. Or the momentum of a large group of people is not to have like well-run, efficient, and faster growing operations, like especially as an organization grows. And so figuring that out is really hard.
Thanks for listening to On the X, the official podcast of the Navy SEAL Foundation and an IRONCLAD original series. Learn more at NavySEALFoundation.org or text On the X to 60104. Please like, share, and subscribe. See you next time.